Good morning, everybody. My name's Gary Parker. I'm the host for this morning's workshop, and we're just waiting for one or two more people to join us. We'll give them another minute or so out of respect for those of you who've joined on time. I'm joined by my colleague Sybil Mayard, and the theme for this morning's presentation is getting your business online. And I'll briefly introduce it, and then Sybil will run through the main presentation, and then we'll be happy to take any questions afterwards. You can ask the questions verbally on screen, or you can put them in the chat as well. The presentation will last between 40 and 50 minutes. It may be shorter. It's always a challenge with timing, but there'll be time to answer any questions that you've got and time for follow-up afterwards. This is being recorded, so if you don't want your image to appear on screen, then please blank the screen. It only actually records when you're actually speaking, so you wouldn't normally be recorded if you're not speaking. So we've got 7 participants online now, so we're going to start very shortly. So good morning to those that have just joined us. My name is Gary Parker. I'm the Managing Director of CNT Associates, which is a business support and fundraising organisation based at the Engine House in Bexley. And what we're doing this morning is a presentation called Get Your Business Online, and this will be presented by my colleague Sybil Mayard, who's well qualified. She's got an MSc in Computer Science and has some significant experience in developing online services. So over to you, Sybil.
Thank you, Gary. I'll just start sharing my screen. So today's topic is getting your business online, and it's a brief introduction to myself. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sybil, and I graduated from University of Kent in 2019 with an MSc in Computer Science. And for the last 2 years or so, I've been working with CNT Associates to provide website development services to small businesses. So first of all, why should you have an online presence? What are the benefits of taking a business online? So first of all, there are lower operating costs. For example, depending on the type of business you're running, you may be able to work from home, which saves on travel costs. Also, you will be able to, you may be able to save on staff costs as well, rather than renting a physical office space. Again, if you're working from home, you'll be saving costs there. Secondly, your business is accessible to customers 24/7. So customers or potential customers are able to browse your website, look at your products and services at any time and from anywhere in the world. You're able to manage your business from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. You can potentially reach an international audience, so you're able to reach customers and locations that you wouldn't normally be able to if you had just the physical presence. It's easier to track analytics and customer behavior, and we'll talk a bit more about this later on. There are various tools that you can use in order to monitor the performance of things like your website and your email campaigns and also your ads. And lastly, an online business has a smaller carbon footprint. Again, so rather than having a physical space, your business is based online, so you don't have a lot of the costs that are associated with the physical business. Also, there's other things like instead of printing out documents and paper, we're saving a lot on paper waste, because instead you'll be creating digital documents and sharing them online rather than on paper. So what do you need in order to take your business online? So depending on what kind of business you're running, you may not need all of these, but these are the main elements. So you'll need a website, you need to set up a custom domain and a professional email address. You might need a hosting provider. There's SEO, which stands for search engine optimization. You may need email marketing, a blog, social media tools, and ads. And we're going to go through all of these in turn during the presentation. So, first of all, how do you build a website? So this requires an amount of planning before you start building a site. So you need to think about how much time you have available, what your budget is, your level of skills, and the requirements of your project or your business. And depending on those requirements, and that will determine what website builder you choose, and whether you decide to build the website yourself or to hire someone else to do it. So it's very important to consider these points. When you're planning out your website, think about what you need it to do in terms of features and functionality. So think about what are the pages required and the content that's going to go into these pages. So at the very minimum, you'd want the home page. It is possible to create a website just with one page and have all the content on there. But you may want to have additional pages like an About Us page, a Contact Us page. You may need some other features like a blog, or if you're a photographer or an artist, for example, you might want to have a photo gallery on there as well. Then there's other functionalities that you might want to add. For example, the ability for people to subscribe to your newsletters via a form. You might need e-commerce. So if you are setting up an online store to sell products and services, you may need a contact form. You can do this in a couple of ways. Either have your email address displayed on the page, or you might want a form for people to submit. You might need a chat bot so that you can have automatic responses sent to people when they type in a message into your site. Now, setting up a website doesn't have to be expensive. It is possible to start off for free. I'm going to show you how in a second. And using a website builder is the quickest and easiest way to get started. So in the past, you needed to have programming skills and know coding languages. So nowadays, there's many website builders out there that allow you to build websites without having to know any coding. So don't think that building a website needs a lot of technical skills, because it doesn't. And we'll show you some examples of the most common website builders out there today. Okay, so our first example of a website builder is Wix. It's a very popular platform which you may have heard of. So with Wix, you can start off by developing a website for free. They do offer a free plan. And with Wix, there's no need to arrange a hosting plan because Wix provides the hosting for you. So all you need to do is to set up a custom domain, which we'll talk about a bit later on. So with the basic features on the Wix platform is usually sufficient, but if you need additional features, then there is the Wix app market, where you can install apps to extend the functionality of your site. The platform does not require any maintenance, so you don't need to worry about keeping it updated because all of that is done for you. If you want to have an e-commerce store, then that's also possible with Wix. And if you need to access advanced features, so for example, removing ads, because on a free plan, you will have adverts placed on your website. So in order to remove those adverts, you need to upgrade to a paid plan. Also, if you need to connect a custom domain or you want to take payments online, then you must upgrade to a paid plan. And Wix offers a variety of different plans for you to choose from. So there's a plan for everyone. Now, our next website builder is WordPress. So WordPress is a very powerful and customizable platform. By the way, there are two types of WordPress, and in this presentation we are referring to WordPress.org, not to be confused with WordPress.com, which is a totally different platform. So with WordPress, you have access to a vast range of themes and plugins to enhance the functionality of your store or your site, and many of which are free. So for example, if you want to build an e-commerce store, then you can use a plugin called WooCommerce. And the WordPress software itself is free. However, you do need to set up hosting and register a domain before installing it, because WordPress itself is just a piece of software and it does need to be installed somewhere. So you do need to set up the hosting and domain first before you can use it. And also, one of the downsides of WordPress is that it does need regular maintenance. So you have to go into it and click update on the themes, the plugins, and the WordPress software on a regular basis. However, even though it does have some disadvantages, WordPress is one of the most powerful platforms out there because it's very customizable. And if you need specific features on your site, which might not be possible with a platform like Wix, then WordPress is definitely the one to go for if you need these specialized features. Then thirdly, we'll look at Shopify. So Shopify is a very popular e-commerce platform. It powers millions of businesses in 175 countries around the world. And themes are very customizable. You don't need to know how to edit code in order to customize your themes. And if you need extra functionality, then there is a Shopify app store. The App Store has both free and paid apps, which you can choose from. And when you're starting out, I recommend that you begin with the basic Shopify plan, which costs $29 per month. And two good things about Shopify are you have 24/7 access to the Shopify support team via chat, email, and the forums, regardless of which plan you're on. And it also offers a 14-day free trial. So if you're not sure whether Shopify is for you, then you can sign up for the 14-day trial and try it out, and get to know how it works. And if you find that it's not the right platform for you, you can simply cancel it before your trial ends and you won't be charged anything. Okay, so as well as the 3 website builders we've mentioned, there are others like Squarespace, Webflow, Weebly, and many others out there, and we can't go through all of them, but just wanted to make you aware that there's a big choice to choose from, and you might want to explore a few of these, get to know how they work and find one that works best for you. Okay, so now we'll move on to how to register a custom domain. So first of all, what is a domain? So this is what appears in the address bar of the browser. So when you type in a website, it's usually something that ends in .com or .co.uk, but there are others. And if you're on a free website builder like Wix, it will give you a domain that has wixsite.com / and then your username, which doesn't look very professional. So after you've built your website, you would usually want to set up a custom domain that includes your business name for a much more professional look. So I've put some points on here to help you choose the best domain for you. So make it as short as possible, because the shorter it is, the more memorable it is. And people are less likely to make mistakes when they're typing it in. Include your business name in your domain. Choose the most appropriate extension. So there are common ones like .com, .co.uk. So these, if you have an international presence, you might want to go for .com, or if you're just in the UK, then .co.uk is more appropriate. And there are others like .org, .uk, .net, and nowadays there are more specialized ones which are becoming more popular, for example .tech or .careers, and many others as well. You want to avoid hyphens and numbers in the domain, because again, if you have hyphens and numbers, people are more likely to make mistakes when they're typing them into the browser. You can purchase more than one domain. This is optional, but you might want to register several domains with different extensions, because if you register one with .com, for example, another company could register the same domain but with a .co.uk extension, and there could be confusion between the two. So in order to avoid that, you might want to purchase both of them, or purchase several domains with different variations. And domains are relatively cheap. They start from around £7 a year plus VAT. And I've listed a few very common domain providers, for example, GoDaddy, Namecheap, 123reg, and there's many others as well. So as well as registering your domain, you'd want to set up a professional email account that matches your domain. So why would you want an email account? Well, email is very convenient and it's a low cost way to communicate with your customers. So you might be using a free provider at the moment, like Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo. But in order to get a customized email address in the form of your name at yourcompanyname.com, then you will need to upgrade to a paid email provider. And you may want to purchase the email hosting package at the time you're purchasing your domain. That makes sense because your email address is going to have a domain that matches your domain. So you can buy the email packaging at the same time. And then also you want to select an email package that gives you enough storage space. You don't need, when you're starting out, you might not need a huge amount of storage, but choose one that gives you enough when you're just starting out, and later on you can always upgrade to a larger space if you need to. Then next we'll talk about setting up your hosting. So we mentioned that if you are using the WordPress software, you'll need to have a hosting provider. So when you're looking for a plan, choose one that includes an SSL certificate. So SSL is a technology that keeps your website secure. And when you're browsing some sites, you might see a padlock symbol next to the address bar, and the padlock indicates that the website is secure. So when you install your hosting, if you have an SSL certificate on there, you get the padlock symbol when visitors are browsing your site, and that gives them assurance that your website is secured and their data is safe. So it's important to research prices and features to ensure that you're getting the best deal. So there's many different providers out there, many different plans, and they all offer different features. It can be quite confusing, so it's important to really do your research. Choose a package that best suits your needs. So you want to think about things like how much traffic your website is getting, how much storage you might need, and choose the best package for that. Because you don't want to choose a package that has many features and add-ons that you probably won't need at all, because you'll just be paying for those extra things that you're not using. And hosting costs could start from around £6 per month, roughly, plus VAT. And I've listed a few examples of common providers here, like HostGator, SiteGround, Bluehost, DreamHost, and WP Engine. So the next slide is on search engine optimization, or SEO. So you might have heard of this technique. What this is about is it's a process that helps your website to rank higher in search results. So this is a way of when people search for keywords, you want your website to appear in the search results and as high up in the results as possible. Because if your website is appearing in Google, but it's on page 2 or 3, for example, it's unlikely that people are going to see it. because the majority of people searching click only on the results on the first page. So there are things that you can do in order to increase your website ranking. Search engine optimization is organic. That means it doesn't use paid advertising. And in fact, SEO doesn't cost you anything unless you hire someone else to do it for you. So the good news is that this is completely free. So here are a few things you can do to improve your SEO. You can optimize page titles and meta descriptions. So page titles and meta descriptions are elements of your website. In here, you can enter some relevant keywords that are appropriate for your site, so that when people are searching on Google, your website will appear in the results if they include those keywords, and if Google think your website is relevant to what they're searching for. So it's important to ensure that your website is loading fast. So test it on a mobile as well. Make sure that the page isn't taking too long to load, because if it's too slow, then it's likely that visitors are going to leave. And also, it will not rank high in the search results. Remove or fix any broken links. So a broken link is when you click on a link and then it tells you the page isn't found. So that's not good user experience. So you need to fix those links or just remove them. Make sure your website has a logical site structure. So when users are browsing your site, it's easy for them to find what they're looking for. Make sure they have a good user experience and the website is responsive. So by responsive, this means that it works well on different sizes of devices. Because nowadays we have many different devices. We have desktop computers, we have laptops, we have tablets, iPads, mobile phones. So you want to make sure that the design of your website works well on all of those different devices. Next is to create a sitemap and submit it to Google Search Console. So Google Search Console is a free tool that you can use in order to monitor the performance of your website in search. And lastly, as we mentioned before, ensure that your site has an SSL certificate installed on it. So all of these things you can do to help increase the visibility of your website in search results. So tracking the performance of your website. So after you've launched your site and it's live, you want to understand how well it's performing. And there are things, tools you can use, for example, Google Analytics, which is a free tool, which you can install on your website. And when you log into it, it will show you graphs and charts of different data. And these can help you to really understand where there are issues on your website and to make improvements to it. So there are things called metrics. Metrics are things that you measure. And there's a few examples here of some metrics like page views, which is the number of pages that are being viewed by your users. Acquisition means how your users are finding your website. So this could be through Google search, or it could be through social media platforms. It can show you the number of users, so how many visitors you're getting to your website. Locations of customers, so where the customers are coming from, like which countries, and also which devices they're using as well, so whether most people are browsing on their mobiles or on desktop computers. And looking at these metrics gives you an idea of like who your customers are, or where they're coming from, and you can use this data in order to make improvements. And also it could help you to also identify any problems. So for example, if you have a lot of errors in there, then you can go into your website and fix those issues. So the next slide is on email marketing. So far we talked a lot about websites. Now we're going to briefly mention a few marketing techniques that you can do. So one of them is email marketing. So this is a powerful tool for keeping your customers engaged. So when you're sending out your marketing campaigns, you need to think about what kinds of content you're going to be sending to your customers. So you might want to send out a monthly newsletter. You might want to inform them of any special offers, any competitions you're running. And if you're launching a new product or service, then you might want to let your customers know about that. And there are metrics that you can monitor. So just like how we monitor the performance of a website, you can monitor how well your email campaigns are performing. And there's a few metrics here like open rate, click-through rate, bounce rate, unsubscribe rate. So what do these mean? So open rate is the number of emails that were opened divided by the total number of emails you sent out. And if you're getting a low open rate, it could indicate that maybe the subject of your email wasn't very interesting or engaging, so people didn't even get as far as opening the email. The click-through rate is how many people clicked links or buttons in your email. The bounce rate is how many emails didn't actually get delivered. So if you have a high bounce rate, then that could indicate that you have many spam emails in there, or people emails that no longer work. So you just might want to go into the platform and remove those problematic email addresses. And then unsubscribe rate, if you have a high rate of people unsubscribing, it could mean that your emails are not really relevant to what people want. So you want to look at your content and make sure it's really relevant and engaging for people. And it could even mean that you're sending out too many emails. Now, if people get too many, then they don't bother to read them and they just click the unsubscribe button. Then we have a list of some common email marketing platforms. All of these offer a free plan. So MailChimp is a very common one. There are others like MailerLite and HubSpot as well, which you may want to have a look at. So the next technique is blogging. So blogging is a good way to demonstrate that you are an expert in your field. So if you write engaging and interesting article, then this is going to keep your audience informed and also engaged. So they'll keep coming back to your website in order to read up on the latest content that you've published on there. It does help to improve the SEO of your website, as we talked about earlier. And all of the website builders mentioned previously offer blogging tools. And the one thing to remember about blogging is it is a long-term process. So you do need to spend some time planning out the articles you're going to post, when you're going to post them. And over time, you will see that the engagement with your website will improve, but it does take a long time for you to see the results of that. Then another technique that you might want to utilize is social media. So it's a very effective and inexpensive way to market your business because you can engage directly with your followers. And similar to blogging, social media is a long-term strategy. So again, you've got to put in a lot of time into planning. So you've got to think about what content you're going to produce, what sort of images and videos you're going to add to your content. And the important thing here is to publish on a regular basis. So it's not much use if you're going to post maybe once a month or less than once a month, because your followers want to keep seeing fresh content. They want to keep being engaged, and it's important that you give them that new content on a regular basis. And here we've listed some popular social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Then we come on to paid advertising. So we've talked about long-term processes like blogging and social media. Paid advertising is a quicker way to gain visitors to your website and increase conversions. However, running paid advertising can be expensive, so you do need to define your budget. Think about how much you want to spend on this, and don't exceed your budget. So it's possible to run paid ads on search engines like Google or Bing, but also social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn also offer paid advertising. So it's important to choose the platforms that your audience is using and advertise on those platforms, because you don't want to be spending money running ads on platforms where your audience isn't present. And again, it's important that we monitor the performance of the campaigns. So you need to look at the data and think about where you can make adjustments and improvements to your campaigns so that they perform better and you're not spending money where you shouldn't be. Now, so far, we've talked about websites, mostly emails and blogging tools. And there's also other aspects of your business that you may also want to take online. So if you're not online already, you might be using traditional methods of drawing on paper or using physical diaries, notebooks, and sending out leaflets, for example. But many of these things are being replaced by digital equivalents. So on this page here, I've just listed a list of some free tools that you may or may not have heard of, but could be very useful for your business needs. So for document creation and collaboration, there's Google Docs, which is a kind of online version of Microsoft Office. And then there is the Microsoft Office Online as well, which is the also the equivalent of the Microsoft Office software. For file storage and sharing, you have Google Drive, Dropbox, and you have WeTransfer. WeTransfer is a great way for sharing large files online. For project management, you might want to try Trello. That's a tool that allows you to set up lists. So you can have a to-do list, a doing list, a done list. And in each of those lists, you have tasks. So tasks will remind you of what you need to do, and you can move these tasks around through the different lists so that you manage your project effectively. For graphic design, you might want to try Canva. So this is a quick way of creating designs for posters, leaflets, or even social media posts, for example. Then for social media, we have the Meta Business Suite. So this is a tool provided by Facebook, and I found this very useful for scheduling social media posts. So we talked about posting on a regular basis and planning out your posts. So a good way to plan this is to put your posts into the planning tool and then schedule them to be posted automatically at regular intervals. And rather than going into Facebook every time or going into Instagram every time to post on there, what you can do is you can log into the Meta Business Suite in Facebook. You can actually link your Instagram to your Facebook account, and you can post to both platforms at the same time. And if you schedule them in advance, you can just set the time and date you want the post to be scheduled, and then you can forget about it, and then it will be published automatically at the time you schedule it for. So I highly recommend that if you're using Facebook and Instagram. And then lastly, there's a section here on video conferencing. So all of you know about Zoom because you're on this call, but there are free alternatives like Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and there's one called Jitsi Meet. So that's a good way of meeting online as opposed to meeting in person. And then lastly, I just wanted to add a slide on how to stay safe online. Nowadays, there are many different scams going around. Since the start of the pandemic, there's been an increase in fraudulent emails going around, etc. So there's a few things here you can do in order to protect yourself. So make sure you install antivirus software on all of your devices that you use, including your mobile. Don't submit sensitive data on unsecure websites. So we mentioned earlier about seeing the padlock symbol in your browser, which indicates that the site is secure. If you don't see that padlock symbol and you're going to make a purchase and enter your card details on the site, then don't do it because your data won't be safe. Check the address bar in the browser to verify that you are actually on the site that you intended to visit. There are many fake websites out there that look exactly like the real ones, so it's difficult to tell which site you're on, but one way to know whether you are on the real site or not is to look at the address bar, check the link to make sure that you are on the legitimate one. Only download apps or software from legitimate sources and always install the latest version. So there are many websites out there where you can download dodgy pieces of software, so don't download those. Go to the legitimate ones and install the latest version, which will be the most up-to-date one. Don't click on any links or download attachments from suspicious emails because these attachments are likely to be viruses which can harm your computer, and these links could lead to fraudulent websites that we mentioned earlier. So keep your devices updated. So this applies to, again, any device, whether it's a mobile, a Mac, a PC. You need to make sure software is always up to date. And lastly, if you're using the WordPress platform, keep your website updated. So as we mentioned before, WordPress does require maintenance. So log into it maybe once a week and check to see if there's any updates available. Make sure you always have the latest version of your plugins and themes installed. Okay, so that's the end of this presentation. Here are the contact details for C&T Associates. If you have any website development or e-commerce needs, then you can contact us at the following details there. So that concludes the presentation. Just having a look now in the chat to see if there are any questions. And also, if you do have questions, you can raise your hand or click the raise your hand reaction on Zoom, or you can post the question into the chat box, whichever is the most convenient for you.
Okay. There's a question from Cheryl Young. Cheryl, if you want to ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, so I've got a site currently that's built by a company and I've got that on Magento. Is there any way of taking that from them and going somewhere else with it?
Hi, Joe, thank you for your question. So when you say taking it away from them, I presume you no longer want to work with your current provider. Is that the case? But you still want...
Well, they're charging me £600 a month.
Understandable, yes. But do you still want to keep the Magento software, or do you want to move to totally different platform.
The problem I've got is that I paid quite a lot of money for the site last January, so I've only had the site a little over a year.
Yeah.
So if I go and do it somewhere else, I feel like the money's wasted.
Yeah. So I think it would be perfectly possible to move away from the current provider, but still keeping the platform that you're on. I'm just curious to know what exactly they're charging for. Is this charging for the hosting? Are they providing like maintenance services?
They said basically it was a year to the date my site disappeared from the website. So I rung them and they said, oh, it was on an old server. They didn't realise because I hadn't been in contact with them for a few months and nothing much was happening. They forgot about me. So they said they cancelled they got rid of some old servers, which was where the site was being held. But if we wanted it to go on their new elastic band servers, it would never go down. And I kind of had no choice but to say yes, because they've got me a bit over a barrel with, they've designed the site and I think they're just recouping monies back by the sounds of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what some of these providers do. But there might be a possibility of maybe setting up, moving on to a different hosting platform. And I'm just thinking whether it's possible to migrate the store over to the new one so that now you're in control rather than it.
That's what I want. Yeah. I've always been beholden to other people doing the site, and it's just made me just really frustrated with it all, to be honest. I mean, if I could migrate it to Shopify, or I've got another guy that I've spoke to that could do it in WordPress, but then I'm paying him again.
One thing to make sure you do before transferring it over is back up your website, or like back up all of your products. So you have a copy of all the products you stored, and then we can try to migrate that across. If you move on to Shopify, that would probably be the best option, because then you're not tied to any specific provider. You're not going to have to be paying anyone. You'll just be paying for the Shopify hosting itself.
Do you not have to pay Shopify fees as well on top of the monthly fee?
Yeah, so the way it works is, there's the monthly fee for the platform, and then you do pay a Shopify payments fee. So that's like 2.2% on each order. So that fee is simply for like the payment provider. That's the only other fee you'd be paying.
Are you saying that that's like, currently I'm using Stripe as a payment gateway? So are you saying that Stripe works the same as the Shopify fees in taking payments? That's the fee? Yeah,
exactly. Shopify payments is essentially Stripe as well. It's like the Shopify version of Stripe. So they both work in the same way. And the Shopify payments, to be exact, I think it's 2.2% plus 20 pence per transaction. So
it's just knowing whether I go to WordPress or whether we go to Shopify, if they call it portable, the information.
Yeah, I mean, either of those platforms could work. If you wanted to, we could have a chat offline to talk.
Yeah, that would be good.
Options.
I don't want to stop anyone else asking questions. Okay, I'll go now, but thank you. Perhaps we could have a conversation.
Cheryl, just to tell you, I emailed you yesterday, I think, with some potential dates. So if you want to respond to that, come back to us on that.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Take care. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Has anyone else got a question they want to ask Sybil in the last few minutes? I've got one question, Sybil. What are the most frequent problems you come across with your clients have with regard to online services? Is there any particular one, or is there any particular set of issues?
Yeah, we have a few issues. One of them is thinking or believing that getting your business online is difficult or requires technical skills. It doesn't have to be. With the many website builders nowadays, you don't have to know coding languages. And there are many tutorials. If you go into YouTube, you can learn how to build the site yourself. It does take time, though, I would say that. But if you invest the time, then it's another skill that you have, and you can save yourself much money, rather than hiring someone to do it. That might cost you a lot more, because they will be charging you extra fees for extra features that you may never need. Another problem that some clients have are setting up things like domains and hosting. As I was mentioning earlier, these can be quite complicated, because when looking at your pricing options and packages, there are so many providers out there, many different packages, many features that they offer, and the difficult thing is knowing which is the right one for you. So my advice is to really do your research, look at different providers and compare them, really look into what they're offering, really think about what your needs are, what is best for your website. So things like how many visitors you're getting, how much storage space you need, whether you need automatic backups, things like this. If you don't need all of those features, then go for a simpler package, because otherwise you'll just be paying for extra features that you don't use. I guess another problem that some of my clients face is they have issues with their website developer. Maybe as a small business, you sometimes get forgotten, because website developers, they have many clients and they tend to focus on the larger ones rather than the smaller ones. So it's hard to find someone who you can work with, who's not going to make you like the lowest priority on the list. So when you're looking for a website developer, really ask them questions about everything. Think about whether they're really the person who you can imagine working with. When I speak with my clients, I always reassure them that I make sure that I'm going to spend the time. I'm not just focusing on the large clients. So yeah, just to make you aware of that. So okay. Yeah, those are kind of the main issues that I find that my clients are facing when getting a business online.
Okay, thank you for that, Sybil. We're approaching the end of the hour now, so if anybody wants to ask any questions, please do. Now, otherwise, this presentation will appear on our YouTube channel in the next week or two. And there's over 20 other video presentations on that site. I put the link in the chat, or just go onto YouTube and search for CNT Associates. This is part of a program that we are that's funded by the government's additional restrictions grant. There will be more soon. We are offering some specific free support to Bexley-based businesses as well as part of that program, but other businesses are welcome to join these presentations. Unfortunately, because the way the funding works, you're not able to join the Bexley program unless you're based there. but TNT, and that includes Sybil, who's an experienced web designer, is always happy to quote for the services we run, and we provide some other services as well. For example, supporting people who want to set up Shopify, which is another significant area that Sybil and I work on. Indeed, if you look on our YouTube channel, you will see a presentation called Introduction to Shopify, which explains what Shopify is all about. It's about the same length as the presentation that Sybil's done today, and we do, presented by Sybil and myself, and we do go into a lot of stuff. We've had a couple of questions here. If you, Nicole, if you want to meet with Sybil, you're on the program, you're part of our program, we can arrange a date for us to meet with you. That's not a problem. Joy, you're asking about fees. It depends what services that you want. The best thing is to email us. You've got our details because you're on the webinar today, asking what service it is you require, and then we will quote to your exact specification, because obviously website development is interesting. Here's another one. Alan, again, we can arrange to meet with Sybil by arrangement. Just email us in and we will sort out a relevant date. So yeah, I'd like to thank Sybil today. Sybil knows what she's talking about. She's well qualified and provides some good services. But of course, outside of the program that some of you are on, there will be a cost to those services, but we're more than happy to quote them. But we can, those of you who are part of the Bexley program, we can talk to you about specific issues. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us this morning. Our next event is on the 8th of April, and we have a number of other, it's at 11 a.m. and we have a number of other speakers on that program, including Alan, who is on here today. So who'll be talking about mortgages, both home and commercial mortgages for business or for other purposes, and a number of other experts, including Rachel Barham from the Federation of Small Businesses. So I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll join us soon, and we look forward to meeting with you again. Sybil, if you can just stay on the line for a minute to update you on a couple of things. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.